back to class, everybody. I am your sieved out Professor Ethan.
And I'm your concerned Professor Ricky.
Concerned about what, bud?
What do you mean, what? Well, you have been spending so much of your time this weekend playing Civilization 6.
So here's the story.
Yeah.
Friday night, I was playing COD with the boys.
With the boys, as you do.
As per usual.
Mm-hmm.
They pissed me off.
Oh.
So I left.
You actually rage quit because the boys were not really hot to trot with your energy that night.
So I was mad, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually too bored, though, to not play a game. So I go on my computer, and I look at all my games, all my options, and I'm like...
What you got?
I'm like, meh.
Okay.
No thanks.
Nothing you already had suited your needs.
Yeah, none of them, tickled the fancy, so to speak.
I totally see you. Yeah,
so I was like, you know what? Let's go on Steam and see what's goody.
Oh, no.
So I'm looking around. I'm like, God, this all looks like it sucks. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll do like a nice little strategy game or something. And then I remembered that I played Civ 5 like out of my absolute ass.
As we all did. I was a huge Civ 5 guy.
So much fun.
It's fun.
And I'm like, you know what? What's Civ 6 all about?
No, you didn't, did you?
And I downloaded it.
Oh, no.
And I haven't left my computer in as many hours. 24.
R.I.P. Yeah, he messaged me this morning, or before I came over to the lab. He was like, yeah, I stayed up till 3 saying that was my soft spot. I was going to stop then.
Yeah. No, that was my hard stop at 3, and it turned into a soft stop at 5 a.m.
5 a.m. What the fuck? Only Civ has that kind of pull.
Look, honestly. I've seen the sun rise 2 nights in a row. I mean, what more do you want?
One of life's hidden gems, honestly. But it takes a civilization of conquest to get it done. You can only see those events, the sun rising 2 days in a row.
Or an empire being born.
Both. Both. Every of both.
What about you? What you been up to?
Honestly, just unpacking my shit. I've been watching anime,
Nice.
And it's been a nice mixture. I didn't do shit at work all week because I kept having home decor stuff come into the house. So around like 1 o'clock, I would get a new piece of furniture like, oh shit, I guess I got to put up this new shelving unit. And I would just not... Well, I would work. I'd be on meetings and they'd be playing while I'm like screwing some shit in with an Allen wrench. And I'm just like, oh yeah, those purchase order integrations looking good. And I'm just cranking out some like shelving unit. So it was an interesting week. I hope no one at work.
Camera off, I assume.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. What are you kidding me? I'm just kind of having that camera on and they see me in my own home.
Yeah,
That's
right.
disrespectful. No, they don't get to see that shit. But yeah, it's been a very uneventful but eventful week. Honestly. That's where I'm at. It's eventful in one way, but as far as work goes, no, nothing got done.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
right?
nothing.
Okay. Hey.
But honestly, given the show we're going to talk about today, Civ does kind of play into that a little bit.
It does.
I was going to say, it actually is a little on brand for today's episode because we are hitting a viewer suggestion. Finally. It's been a hot minute. We haven't done one of these.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
What's the last one we did? It couldn't have been My Bride is a Mermaid, right?
No way.
We must have done another one, right? We don't got to check now.
I think yeah, but
I think maybe yes. But yeah, so I mean, we are doing a viewer suggestion today, and when I finally watched it, we were pestered pretty hard to watch it, and I'm kind of glad we were because once I finally got around to watch it, which was just me binging it this morning, I was shocked. I was kind of shook to my core at how good of a suggestion this was.
High Score Girl, episode 53.
So 53 was the last one we did, and this is 95. Holy shit.
Hey, well, better late than never.
What are you going to do? Yeah, we're getting back into it. But what are we talking about today? What's the show we're doing today?
Today we are talking about the one season wonder Drifters.
And there is so much more to that statement that's true than you think, because this 2016 show was put out by Hoods Entertainment, I think it's called. That's the studio. They have maybe 7 or 8 publications in terms of anime.
That's more impressive than I would than you think.
Yeah,
because,
right.
It's great looking.
It's really good looking. This studio has weirdly all the chops to make something look absolutely legit. And Drifters looks amazing. Like, it's not just the quality of the animation. As you guys know, I'm an anime stickler in terms of animation. The animation is very, very solid. It's more the highly stylized aesthetic that I really enjoyed. And it had kind of me and Pat Bot had a whole conversation about this earlier. And
what?
We did, because he sent me a YouTube video to watch. It was a speedrun of a game that we both like. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it after I binge Drifters. And he's like, bro, this show was good until it wasn't. I'm like, Pat Bot, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What don't you like here? And we'll get into that. We'll get into that later. Because
I'm interested.
He gave me a reason, which I don't think is valid after I've seen the whole thing. But I will say what I told him was the way that Drifters looks is how I imagine Berserk 2016 of the same year to look in my mind's eye before it got mangled by trash CGI. Like the aesthetic of this show should have been what Berserk was, in my opinion. It had the same kind of character models.
Berserk should have been this.
It should have looked like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should have looked like this.
Yeah.
It had all of the character model designs that were very akin to the Berserk manga. It had all of the designs of the characters themselves, not just the animation that looked like Berserk. It was what Berserk should have been, and I am here for it. The CGI they used was light but additive, which is rare to say from me. Big battle scenes, big armies, good CGI was used there, but everything else, hand-drawn and beautiful. Chef's kiss. So good. So clean. So fresh. But yeah, initial thoughts. What do you think about this show that was just kind of plopped into our laps?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I liked, it hits a lot for me, the actual historical people being involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
And, I wonder, does it hit harder for people who actually know about a lot of these people? Because if you're like me, I didn't know about basically any Asian military commander. Before World War II, never heard of them.
For sure. And this is definitely a show, if someone out there is learned in, 15th to 18th century Japanese, military heroes, this is the show for you. Because
even before that, I think Oda Nobunaga is from literally like 1000 BC.
Is he really?
1300 maybe.
Wow, that's way before I thought.
The little kid, the other guy, the archer, he's way before both of them.
Yoichi?
Yeah.
Wow. That may be true. And I guess that makes sense because he was the one who was shocked at the military advancement in terms of technology. But Nobu, as they call him later in the show, he wasn't that surprised. I feel like he was around because he knew about Toyohisa's clan being the one who was the progenitor of the firearm in Japan. Like his clan was the first manufacturer of firearms in Japan.
Yeah,
so he knew that.
He was like a 1300 pirate guy.
Yeah, very pirate energy. But I mean, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. I think we got to give a little bit of a light. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? What is this show?
Sure. So basically, it's a struggle between a good and chaotic evil.
Chaotic evil, right? It was funny because they didn't feel like they had a lawful agenda at all. Like they're definitely like scorched earth policy. Everything's got to go. But it, for all intents and purposes, not even that. Like it's an isekai. It's a straight up isekai. So you're gonna get a couple isekai episodes here for the next couple of weeks, just because the way we're recording this.
It's just how it goes.
It's just how it goes. I actually watched it not knowing it was an isekai at first. I didn't read a synopsis when I started or anything. I just heard Drifters. I had to find it, and when I started watching, I'm like, shit, it's another isekai. God damn it.
Right, because you hate them so much.
I love them. I'm an actual fanboy for isekai, so I was here for it. But I was. But it's a show that's weirdly gritty, but is allowed to be, because the way they frame the whole show, it's an isekai of warriors of history that are pulled into this world because they're warriors and to continue to be warriors to fight this threat in this world. And
see, I love that aspect of it because it's a lot like Norwegian myths of Valhalla.
Yeah.
There's this idea that if you die in battle, like, pridefully, I guess, or,
With glory,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
glorily.
Gloriously. That's
There
the
it
word.
is.
Yeah.
You are taken into the Valhallan army, and then you're
Yes.
able to fight again forever.
Forever. Right. You get
Which,
to
they
experience
love.
you get to experience the glory that is the battlefield for the rest of your eternal days. So
And samurais are not too far off for just like enjoying battle, right? And you could see that a lot in the main character.
As we saw in this show, for sure, our main character, Toyohisa Shikuma, I think is his name.
I don't know his first name.
But yeah, Toyohisa is the his actual normal name, and he is a man who is living by the samurai warrior code. Like, you can tell this main character does live and die on the battlefield. Like, he's a genius in the battlefield alone. He's an actual ditz at everything else. But he's a legit natural born warrior, and he is like on the battlefield, he's an actual god. But he still applies himself to a self-imposed code, which was ingrained in him by his, as he said, his father, his uncles, his other uncles, grandpa, and everything. His entire lineage has been training these men to be warriors. And I think as far as MCs go, he's very endearing. He gave me some Joseph Joestar vibes from an aesthetic standpoint.
Agreed.
Yeah, right? But I loved him. He was fun. Like,
yeah, I think he did all the little things right,
all the little shit.
He played full 60, hard and tight,
Yeah,
got in there.
Full 60. The whole Monty.
No, he's cool. So he's from southern Japan. So
Yes.
there's like a southern island, obviously. And
Right.
his family was like the main leaders of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he dies in a conquest from main island, Honshu, coming down and trying to take over their area.
Right.
But what the coolest part about it is, since these like war heroes are asynchronously taken from their battles.
Yeah, right.
You get to hear history. You know what I mean? Like, Nobunaga was taught history of what happened after he died by Toyohise, and then vice versa. Nobunaga tells Soichi what's up, or Yuichi, whatever the fuck their name was.
Yeah, right. Yoichi.
So, that was like the coolest part for me, because not knowing anything about what's going on with their history previous to World War II, really.
They had no idea. Right.
Well, I didn't know anything, is what I'm saying. So it's like, not only are they telling them what happened, but they're telling us what happened.
Right. And I felt a little lost in that moment, because they were relaying so much history so fast, and it wasn't until about halfway through the show that I realized how cool that was.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple other shows of acclaim that have tried this cherry picking historical figures out to fight in a cohesive battle. Fate's Day series is a big proponent of this, but I don't think Fate's Day ever went into
genre.
Yeah, exactly. They never went into the detail that this show went into, which, again, did not expect this show to do this aspect so well. But they were all bringing in different battle strats, because when they all were summoned, their entire objective as a group of otherworldly beings, aka drifters, is what they were called in this world, they were brought here to fight other similar otherworldly beings that were from the same world, but different time periods as well, called the Ends. And you got to kind of see this weird mingling. Like, this show is for the war strategist, someone who likes military battle. Like, this is a show, I don't care if you're an anime fan or not, if you like military battle and like war strategies and stuff, this show is exemplary in that regard. Like, the power system is almost how well you can manipulate a battlefield. And I found that pretty compelling.
But, sprinkle in the normal isekai elves and dwarves, right?
Right, but it's funny the line that they walk, right? Like, the high fantasy stuff never felt like it intruded on the politics and the war strategy and the military aspect, and vice versa. Like, that part didn't feel like it infringed too hard. They played on each other, but they never, like...
Well, it felt to me like the Ends and the drifters were just being dropped into like a basically undeveloped world in some regards, where, you know, the human empire, which was
Right.
led by someone we all know,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately,
Yes.
was basically subjugated all the other races and everything like that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
as per usual.
What are you gonna do? Standard issue.
Right.
Obviously.
And so in the areas where these guys are normally battling, it's really just them as the main points of interest, right? Like Toyohise
Yeah.
was really important
Right.
because he could do things that all the elves or all the dwarves or whatever in the various areas could not do without like a strong leader.
Right. And it's fascinating what this show does to make the people who have been quote unquote isekai'd into this world feel special. It wasn't necessarily power. In some cases it was for the antagonistic force. All of these people brought in seemed to have mystical powers. But everyone on our almost protagonist side didn't really have anything besides their battlefield knowledge, like their ability to read and manipulate an entire war or perform a siege or take over a country or perform a coup is their only weapons, is how good they are at that. And this show does a good job of kind of setting up initially the first major overtone theme of this show, in that this is a story about merging perspectives. These are all different perspectives battling it out. You had some individuals who lived by a code, others who didn't give an absolute fuck on the battlefield, and everyone in between.
Yeah.
And everyone had a different... I loved it because everyone had a different
approach.
Exactly. But the world itself, the elves, the dwarves, everyone that was in this world were blank slates. And they felt like they were swayed by the most verbal or loud approach, right? Because sometimes they do what Nabu would say, and sometimes they'd say what Toyo would do. And they were swayed by whoever was a better leader on the battlefield, and I love that because they are the foot soldiers that these drifters are bringing these militaristic tactics to a new world that never even thought about these things.
Right.
Which is such a compelling concept. I loved it.
I mean, there's really like so much good that happens in this show.
I don't know why I was so shocked after I watched it.
The only thing we'll get into it soon, but the only things I didn't like were the ends, and we talked about it a little bit. I think they detracted from the story massively.
Okay.
But it was pretty cool just seeing like the anachronistic like plucking of different people, like not only just battle hardened individuals, but Saint Germain.
Yeah.
Or Jermaine, I guess.
Yeah, right.
He's like always thought of as like an alchemist or some kind of magician.
Sure,
which you saw even in Castlevania, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a fun look at all these different characters. The difference between the Ends and the Drifters is the Drifters are plucked directly from a battlefield, whereas the Ends seem to have some kind of transformation.
Yeah, they're given
the myth that they've created essentially is what they embody in this world.
Right. And I think that was due to the power of a character we find out in about episode 4 or 5 called the Black King. And this is where me and Patbot had a really interesting conversation about this character. But it seemed as though him being the big daddy baddie of this show was giving these transformations to his disciples, Anastasia, Joan of Arc.
Why'd you say Anastasia first?
Because she's fucking hot. Like,
I knew it.
Yeah, no kidding. But that and Hijikama, I think is his name. The guy with the ghosts, like the samurai ghosts he can wield, essentially, like a ghost army he's got.
Yeah.
Hijikama, I think is his name. But all these people are given these powers, and you're right, they weren't basically like transferred A to B. It was A, but also they were given some extra special sauce.
A+.
Little A+. Yeah, right. Yeah. They were given
A + B equals C kind of shit.
Exactly. They were given a little bit of B and they ended up as C. That's how it's got to be. So they I liked the way that they did introduce the end, because we got some really recognizable names. But when you saw them have powers, I then kind of understood what you were coming from with, like, why? Well, what narratively does this provide for me?
Because I think it's like it would be more fun for me to see, like, basically say General Patton versus Oda Nobunaga or
Yeah,
whatever his name
right.
is,
Yeah,
Nobunaga.
that'd be dope.
I think that'd be so much more fun to see, like, okay, which general would win the battle versus, which general, Patton has a, 75-foot tall tank that can shoot a continent away, like, I don't
Right.
think it felt like it cheapened the actual battle because, our guys were winning, but it was like, would they really win against ghost fucking soldiers? Like, I mean, right? It just felt a little bit, unsettling to me where, you know, what I was hoping for was literally just battles with different generals in history.
Yeah.
Trajan, Barca, Hannibal Barca, and all
Yeah,
these
right.
guys
Yeah.
just outmaneuvering the crap out of the ends.
So when you brought that point up, I had not finished the series yet, but once I finally finished and we got a couple rematches and stuff like that, the question came up the same way I give any other show we do the same scrutiny. Does this narrative choice tie into the lore so closely that if you plucked it out, the story would be cheapened without it, right? It'd be lessened without it. And the tall tale sign here that giving the ends powers was not a good decision is because the non-powered force, our protagonists, were winning despite them having powers.
Yeah.
So why didn't you just make them better warriors from a narrative perspective and just nix the whole power situation altogether, right? Just nix the whole thing.
I mean, honestly, just looking at history, because I did do research after watching this just for funsies.
Okay. All right.
A lot of the generals that they have on the other side are very good,
Okay.
but they picked like Rasputin and people like that are supposed to be like mythically powerful.
Right. They just have a presence amongst humanity. I think they do.
Like, yeah, but they have like special powers even within our lore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
And so it's like annoying because they have good generals, good warriors and stuff like that on that side, but they also just like, they took the myth aspect of them and really played on it. But
right.
It should be a relatively even fight as it was, right?
Sure. And
I would think.
I would think, and that's what I'm saying, right? Is that I feel as though you could bring the personalities of this historical figures into the narrative aspect, like actually work it into the fabric of the story, but you didn't. Yeah, you could still do that without the powers. That's the one thing, is that if Toyohisa is basically fighting Joan of Arc, but Joan of Arc needs to basically be a pyrokinetic, like crazy fire user, just to match him and inevitably get beaten by him, he's not powered. So why is the power there, right? Like, narratively, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
so,
I think it takes away like any cool things that they did in their lives. Like Jeanne d'Arc was a great freaking warfighter.
Right. Yeah. No, literally the one of, if not the best France has ever seen, the point where they have actual lore about them in the real world, right? They're that good.
Yeah. I mean, cool, soldier, cool story. And then they kind of cheapen it by giving them fire powers, or I don't know. I wish there was more like putting up the histories of both characters against each other, because they're like all from different, timelines, different, zones and stuff like that. Saint Germain's from England,
right,
or I guess France, and all the people from our little group are all from Japan in different time periods, like 1000, 1300, and 1500s, like
exactly. So I mean, it's funny because Fate's Day, I imagine some of you keen-eared students out there are listening, like, well, Fate's Day has historical figures and they have superpowers out the ass, like
they all have.
There it is. If you're gonna do this with giving them powers, they all have to have powers, and it works. But I think what cheapened the ends, this antagonistic force in the show, is because how well they did the historical figure aspect without the powers. They should have just done the whole thing that way. That was great. So, yeah, that is a gripe. That was a gripe, and it felt a little disjointed, but I took it for what it is, and it felt as if they were trying to build a very kind of peak Game of Thrones where there was political factions and militaristic battles and all that, but you had a little fantasy thrown in there. You got some elves, you got a little magic, you got some magic users, you have magicians in an organization, like an administration for like, I don't know, the nation's capital or whatever the fuck. But
No, those were Amio mages.
Amio made. Oh, yeah.
From Tokyo Ravens, remember?
Oh, they fucking were, weren't they? They had
So-
talismans and everything.
So early in Kyoto, I want to say, they created these alchemists,
Yeah.
the Onmyo mages, and they're like a legitimate, people that people thought were actual, magicians.
And that's the time period that guy in the hat came from,
Yeah.
because he set that shit up. Oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one piece I didn't catch where he came from. That was
In fact,
my
he literally might be the guy that was the
progenitor of all that
the Tokyo
shit.
Raven thing.
Oh,
It might
like,
be the same name. I don't even know.
wow. Yeah. Okay, then that tracks. Okay, that tracks.
It was just cool because, they took the magic, quote unquote, from the real world. I did air quotes for y'all.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And brought it to this world and then just like expounded upon it heavily.
In a world that had more
has magic.
Yeah,
right?
with explicit magic, so they actually could use that formula in a place that had legitimate mana or whatever the fuck.
What I loved though is Nabunga was
Yeah.
using the magic from the elves or whatever, like those little crystals where you could see stuff across the battle.
For sure, yeah.
Or I guess that might have been the magic core as well. Who knows?
It was the crystal ball thing, right?
Yeah. Like seeing this is like what I dream about, frankly.
Yeah, okay.
Like old generals given new equipment and see what they can do with it.
And that right there is why I say
Like
that
Genghis Khan with tanks. Are you telling me he's not taking over the
oh
world?
my god. Like he's gonna fuck everyone on the globe.
Yeah.
Like that's who he is, that's what he does, but he's gonna do it with tanks now.
Yeah.
That's who he is. But yeah, you're right. Nabu basically is given essentially a cell phone, right? A magical cell phone. And that was one of the most striking scenes in this entire show, is him not just understanding the implications of it, but future uses of it that this world has not even conceived of, and understands in that moment, and even a level beyond that, this is why I was brought to this world, because perspectives matter. I have a new perspective this world's never considered, and it starts with something like this, like an actual magical orb where I can chat with my buddy across the battlefield. Fucking crazy. And it's something so simple, but they set the world up for that to be impactful, which is
Right.
it
Well,
felt
I mean,
rewarding, right?
Think about it, right? Dr. Stone put in a lot of time to say getting the walkie-talkies, getting the cell phone is the most important battlefield improvement that has ever happened.
Yes.
And then you have a genuine general telling us that as well, being like, holy shit, if we had this, we would have won every battle,
Right. And it's a weird mix, because you're getting these generals from a time centuries before us on mic right now, right? And you then have a narrative or a world really, that provides them with a magical tool that is akin to a 21st century tool like we have, like a freaking smartphone. And it's kind of this dual purpose thing where we can understand the implications of that because we have a technological version of that magical stone, but he is put in the presence of it and sees all the battle potential of it. And it's not just that. They do it with the talisman shit, with the stone walls. This chick, which she was kind of a comic relief fan service character, but fine. Bad, but fine. But whatever. The one thing she could do is she was a very good, basically earth user, and she can make stone walls, but she only ever used it for defense, and it wasn't until these generals came in and showed new ways to use it. And that is what makes this show so good, is that
Agreed.
they aren't necessarily making new shit in this world. Well, they are a little bit, but the stuff that already exists, they're using in new novel ways. They're using the world to their advantage, which is legit strategy, legit black and white militaristic brain wrinkles, and they vibe with it, and I really am a fan of that.
I just think, this is my only real criticism is if they were both on the same playing field and had to utilize like the resources that were in this world,
Sure,
it would have been more interesting to me to see those battles You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like weird 1v1 battles a lot of the time versus like what these guys are used to, which is like generals for armies. Like, I
Literally
think it would have been
leading.
so much more fun.
But the thing is, we got a couple glimpses of that. We did. I really enjoyed the first elf village kind of conflict set where they made it look as though the village of these elves were deserted, and then when the human army came back, the elven force popped up and just fucking mollywopped these guys, like, because that's good battle strategy.
Yeah, I just, obviously this is a show from Japan. It would just be a lot cooler to see some of like, I mean, we're a young country, but some of our
For sure,
generals
yeah.
being, included would be really cool.
That is true, yeah.
Or maybe some like throughout Asia, like not just Japan. Like Japan was obviously heavily showcased
No
here,
kidding.
which is fine. It's their show, their culture.
Right.
But there's been a lot of good generals out there, not just those guys.
When am I going to get a George Washington anime? That's all I want.
I don't want that, but I want him included.
Some Ulysses S. Grant shit. That's all we need.
I mean, I just think it'd be cool to see, like, I mean, I mentioned Patton, but, cool ass generals.
When am I going to get a nice Eisenhower character?
Right.
Where's that?
I want to see him making steak straight on the fucking coals.
That's all I need. But a couple, again, this show is another one of those shows that the last time I said this about a show was Raju Muhammad. This show had no business being as good as what it was.
Yeah.
In my opinion. That had no hype. There was no accolades that I can go back and see. But it has nearly an 8 on Mao. 797 last time I checked or some shit. I was smitten. I was like, whoa, this is like truly a sleeper because this has been dormant for 5 years, but nobody talks about this shit except for the one who suggested it. Shout out to Saint. I think he was the one who wouldn't shut up about pestering it to us. Yeah. But thankfully, he didn't shut up because it was a good show.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, maybe you would maybe turned it back a little bit, but the resilience obviously meant there was something there. Yeah, obviously
10 to 15% off there.
Right. But another big thing I really liked about this show is that it was one of the few that had a really gory aesthetic, real signing shit, but it felt super well placed. Like really of the scene and the lore, because this is a very war-centric show.
Oh yeah.
You need to have, you need to show the tragedy of war, and they do a good job here keeping that nice line between, not shying away from the ugly stuff, but keeping it pretty contained and tame for all things considered.
I mean, I would say the worst part in terms of that was the city that took over the elf women.
Yeah.
Like, pretty wild.
But that scene that like you saw them walk in and they basically find them violating these elvish women because it's a spoil of war. It's a consistent historically a spoil of war is to take the women. Yeah. And when they finally find where they're keeping these women, the scene isn't explicit, but it's not explicit in imagery, but it's explicit in meaning and purpose. Like, they were doing some pretty unsavory shit, and Toyo does not take kindly to that shit at all.
Yeah.
That was actually an interesting scene because Nobu actually knocked out Toyo before he can give the call to execute these men for doing that. Why do you think that was? I'm curious about that.
Me explained it.
Well, you basically don't sully yourself. Let me do it. I've had my hands dirty. Let me be the guy to do the dirty work. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think he's trying to use. Nobunga's the obvious mastermind here, right?
Yeah, and did you find yourself more endeared to him than Toyo?
Yeah, I mean, he's cool as shit.
He's my favorite character in the whole show.
Me too.
Yeah,
like not even close.
He's just this absolute pirate god.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to be the guy in the shadows pulling the strings, right. And so he didn't want the guy out front to be like basically massacring people.
You're the white knight. You're supposed to be the example, right? You need to be the one people follow. I'll do all the seedy shit.
Well,
which
they
is
need
cool.
to follow him because they respect him and like him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you start just massacring people, how long till you turn on them kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
Oda, he's already doing that kind of crap, so let
Yeah.
her rip.
Yeah, right. And it's the line that he said that really intrigued me was like, Toyo, he is less of a king and more of a warlord because he has that special gift that inspires people to fight, inspires people to be warriors. And
Well, he wasn't actually a king in real life, so that's probably why. He
Well-
was literally a battlefield general.
right, exactly. So I mean, it's really cool how these characters interact because, as I said earlier in the episode, this is a show of clashing perspectives. It's really cool because and how could it not? You have people that are coming in geographically close but temporally so far apart,
Yeah.
centuries apart. So their perspectives all are so different about how to operate. I mean, a good example is the airplane guy. He was fucking rad. Like,
Yeah.
and they didn't even touch on the beast races, but you only got one good look at them when you saw a scene of this guy who was clearly a Japanese fighter pilot who was taken into this world. He fights in one battle, he lands his plane, he takes over essentially a region of beastmen and becomes the ruler. But we see none of that except for the final result, which is him being carried by 4 wolfmen, and he's just like kicking one in the head like,
Yeah.
fuck you, get me there faster. Oh, so good. So
Well, I mean, that's where I think it's gonna get cool, right? So he's clearly I think he's one of the aces from World War II.
Right.
And then I'm pretty sure they had Admiral Togo,
they did.
which is Japan's biggest admiral.
Yeah.
Most admired admiral from the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the inside actually. So it's just going to be interesting to see. I'd like, more, obviously, like I said, I'd like more commanders, more stuff like that. I think having Hannibal as this kind of like addled old fool, unless he's around Trajan, because that pulls out.
him out, and he's an actual genius
Yeah.
when he has a moment of clarity. That was a great narrative choice that you had this truly iconic strategist who was an absolute, senile old dude who wanted raspberries. That was
Yeah.
his only motive for the last half of the show, is he just wanted fucking raspberries.
Well, I think the cool thing is for the audience is when he was saying stuff that sounded like it didn't make any sense, we understood what he was saying.
Right.
Because he was like giving them advice
Yeah.
through like just babble. And Toyohise is dumb as shit, so he's not gonna figure it out. And then Oda is struggling. He's like, I don't get it.
I don't know
dude."
what you're trying. The one time that he did get it though, there was a really cool moment
Yeah.
when he basically did like hand motion for stairs, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's a really good idea." And in that moment of clarity, Hannibal didn't have to say a word, but he came up with a great use of that Stonewall charm, spell, whatever, to be stairs along a wall to siege a castle. Brilliant. And
Yeah.
again, that's going back to that. He's never seen that before this world. He has no fucking idea what that is, but he sees it in action and he's like, okay, this is how I can use it. This is what I am. He's an actual strategist.
Right.
So cool. So
Just
fucking
like
cool.
definitely the crowning jewel of the show was showing them being able to use the stuff from this world
Yeah.
to like the absolute nines.
And do we have another gripe that I guess I have is the pacing was a little kind of breakneck speed, but I think it's because they had a narrative that they knew from start to finish for a 12 episode season. Like it didn't feel like, well, okay, it did feel like it ended like thinking it was going to get a season 2. It's been 5 years, no season 2, but I think they understood what they were going to tell in those 12 episodes. But to me, it felt a little breakneck. Like there were some things like, whoa, holy shit, we're here now, we're there now, we're here now. A little breakneck, but it's high octane with purpose, I think. I felt like they meant to do that, right? It didn't feel like an accident.
I think the point was the Black King or whatever is mobilizing heavily fast.
Yeah, right.
And so if they don't start, catching up, they're going to be crushed by the ends immediately because they captured like a freaking dragon or something.
The bronze dragon?
Yeah, I mean they're capturing just like ridiculous monsters on their side.
They're just building some serious firepower, and
it's sort of like a Lord of the Rings type story where you've got Sauron who gets all the trolls, all the orcs, all this shit on his side versus the elves and dwarves and.
It felt like I said, like it kind of felt peak Game of Thrones with what was the zombie king, the White King or whatever the guy's name is.
I didn't watch it.
The guy from Game of Thrones who basically could raise the dead. So they had like a big battle up north, and they're escaping, and on the coast, all of these dead. He literally rises them like straight up solo leveling shit.
Rise.
And, yeah, literally, he just like cloop, and like thousands of soldiers pop up. That kind of feel was the Black King. So everything felt reactive in a way in this story because they're all kind of, oh shit, the Black King's here. We got to mobilize. Oh shit, the Black King just got a bronze dragon. We got to mobilize.
Aragorn used he rose the dead and used them to take over Minas Tirith. So.
Oh shit, though. Yeah, you're right. It's Return of the King shit. I remember that.
Very similar.
It is extremely similar. But yeah, that's I guess that's honestly the only gripe I had was the pacing was a little weird, and the ends having powers was a little odd. But this does bring up a very interesting thing from the conversation I had with Patbot. And it's something I brought up to you on our phone call. The Black King, there is not extremely subtle hints that who the Black King is essentially Jesus. Do you agree with that statement?
I mean, I didn't really view him as Jesus, but, I come from a Christian background, whereas if I was maybe from a Shinto background, I might think of, Jesus like that,
sure.
Right? So I think it could be, right? Like maybe the way that Japanese view him, right?
Yeah.
But, obviously from my background and my perspective, it was obviously sacrilegious, but whatever.
Yeah, right. I think there are a couple things that lend itself to this idea, but Patbot literally hated this show and called it blasphemous. Because he basically bought the idea that the Black King was Jesus.
I never once explained to me why you thought that, because I have no clue.
Okay, so I didn't necessarily ask him, but knowing that information when he told it to me like episode 2. He told me that information. So I went into the show knowing the big baddie could be that, so I looked for the signs. Here's my case. The power set that he had, the giver and multiplier of life. Like he could take anything that is living and basically rapidly multiply it. Like he took a small flower and he made it that entire like bushel or field or whatever. He could heal any wound. He could raise anyone from the dead. And he basically could use that for evil by making your cells grow to a cancerous level. And that's what he did to the bronze dragon to submit him. The other case, I guess, is more coincidental. The fact that Joan of Arc was on his team was a very interesting choice. Why Joan of Arc? I think because
she was thought of as a witch and got burnt at the stake.
Yes. And everyone on their team was killed by their country. They were betrayed. Rasputin, killed by Russians oligarchy. Anastasia, killed by Russians. Joan of Arc, killed by France. And Jesus, killed by Rome. And the ideology, while it makes logical sense, they all have a grudge against humanity. Both explicitly, the Black King said, I wanted to help humanity, but they rejected me. Now they have to die. Joan of Arc, we didn't get that explicitness, but implicitly we saw her demise, and she was burnt at the stake and then transported here by Orleans. Not the new one, the old one. Old Orleans, the OG Orleans. And basically, what you have...
I mean, based on that alone, I think you could make that, saying, I wanted to help the humans and they rejected me kind of shit, but...
It seems it's logically sound, but it seems so weak, right?
Well, it's a bad interpretation of what happened.
It's a shallow interpretation because it could be interpreted that way, but it's again very shallow, some fan fiction bullshit essentially.
Yeah, so I mean, it's totally possible. I think if that's the case, it's gonna suck. I mean, I looked up on like Reddit and stuff what people were thinking, and a lot of them say it's Jesus, and I'm like, I barely noticed anything related to him like once.
Well, there's this,
And like I said, it could just be a bad translation of what they think.
and the other piece of information we did get is you did get to see his hands in a brief scene, and you can clearly see kind of a stigmata type hole through the hand situation from when he was crucified. So
I didn't see that.
That was actually in an end credit scene, like an after end credit scene.
Well, I never look at
I know
those.
you don't, but
These
you're missing
fucking
some
assholes.
You're missing some sweet details, dude.
Why do they do this shit?
You gotta look at the timeline, bro. You gotta look at the timeline. If you're at the end credits and there's 4 minutes left, you know you got some sweet shit at the end. You know.
So fucking dumb.
In any case, you saw him cast something from his crazy dragonfly staff, but
that's what I'm saying. He exhibits absolutely nothing related to like,
which is why I think it again, logically, if they were to come out in, honestly, hopefully a season 2, but if they come out in season 2 and show that it is Jesus who has turned his back on humanity, fine. I can understand it, but I do not like it because it is not narratively tight. It is narratively loose and shallow, but it would make sense. So, can I see it happening? Yeah. Do I want it to happen? Not really. Do I think it's blasphemous? Blasphemous? Not really. Not really. That's more directed at Pat Butt, who is the one who called this show that specifically.
I mean, I think it's dumb to take your real world beliefs into a show and be like
into a
they didn't live
drawing
up to the you know what I mean?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The Christian ideal of this.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I don't think it'll be a good idea if it is him.
But it's an idea that I can at least accept. It's like, fine. It's not what I want. But I do think that's how it is. Other than that, though, I mean, honest to God, like, the characters in this show were fun. There were moments of real comedy in here that actually kind of got me chuckling, which I was shocked at. I guess they did this interesting thing where the show is visually heavy from a gore and violence perspective, but the writing had these great moments of levity where, like, Nobu and Toyo and Yoichi would have these kind of interactions, and they would go kind of like semi-chibi, and they'd have this really interesting kind of back and forth that was, you know, sprinkled in at a really good ratio, where it's just like every so often you'd have these moments of comedic levity that I really enjoyed. It was actually kind of funny at times. I was kind of a fan.
I mean, it was great show, man.
Great show, man. But yeah, I don't. Why do you think that this didn't get the love that maybe you think maybe we think it deserves?
Because it's blasphemous, obviously.
It's obviously a heresy of all things.
Well, I think it's because it takes a lot of like caring about war and history to actually enjoy this, I think. I mean, it's fun if you just turn your brain off and watch it, like I think, but you know, unless you're a Civ 6 player, you won't even get it.
Unless you're out here with the long form wrinkle gameplay. Like
right.
But yeah, I think it marketed itself poorly because I
think it's too smart for most people, frankly.
But didn't you just say if you turn your brain off, it'd be fun?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's too smart for people.
Okay.
Right.
But I think
we're saying the same thing. I don't.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. It's too smart, but turn your brain off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's whatever.
You have to be smart to be able to do that.
Yeah, you have to be gifted to be able to think in no way at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Just total blank mind.
It's hard to do.
That's frankly enlightenment, honestly. But yeah, this show, I think it came out right around the time where some big bangers, like 2016, that year was a notably.
That's Attack on Titan season 1, isn't it?
It was One Punch Man season 1. It might have been Attack on Titan season 1. I think it was My Hero kind of era. Maybe that was the season 1 late in 2016. But that was a very heavy hitter year of anime. So I think, you know, this is coming from a moment in recent anime history where it was swallowed by some of the heavier hitters that are now, you know, mainstays and talk of the town type anime that are IPs to this day. But I wonder how many drifters are out there, right? How many drifters that just got swallowed by a season that just had that slapper that everyone talked about, and it's basically just got obscured by the hype for other shows. I wonder how many drifters exist. Here's the hoping. I mean,
I'm sure there is quite a few.
There's
right?
quite a few gems out there.
There's got to be ones that we've never heard of. I think Gate also came out in 2016.
Oh,
which is pretty similar concept.
Gate was rad as fuck. Was that like a reverse isekai? No, they went to the new world, right?
Yeah,
okay, they went to
big
it.
ass gates just showed up and they just started sending like military
through it, right?
And just destroying dragons and shit with howitzers, and everyone's like, "Wow,
dude!" Seeing that biplane just mow down dragons, that was actually so pretty fucking rad.
It's something that I've always thought about. Like, what would happen if you brought like a team of snipers from like today, and you brought them back to World War II? Would you just like destroy battlefields quickly?
Hannibal kind of. It wasn't Hannibal. Who was the other guy? The one that was kind of his counterpart. Trajan. Yeah. He saw the Gatling gun and was like, give that to me. I could take Rome over with just that.
Yeah.
Like literally that. What the fuck is that? I can take over Rome with this.
Well, Trajan is Rome.
Well, yeah. Well, that's his name, right?
Yeah, but he's Roman. Why would he take over Rome?
Then maybe it was Hannibal who said that.
He may have.
Yeah, maybe it was Hannibal.
One of them was one of those two guys. Shit for it.
Yeah, one of those two guys were just like, I fucking need this weapon. I can mow down an entire country in my time with this. And that just...
Which was true. That really genuinely happened, if you recall the Last Samurai situation.
I don't. Tell me.
So, basically, at the end of the samurai's reign, they were fighting... It was either U.S. troops or British troops or something like that, and they brought Gatling guns over. So they were just sprinting at people with Gatling guns and getting absolutely laser beamed.
Just mollywop mowed down. I mean, and it's just, this show does a really good job highlighting like just a little sauce of modern warfare in an environment that is very much still in bow and arrow aspect, or maybe like a flintlock.
Well, it seemed like, Billy the Kid or something was one of them. And he had, his 6-shooter.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, why are you wasting bullets? It's like, because I have a fuck ton of it. Like, that's why. This is not the weaponry This isn't that one shot off. I have literally a 6-shooter and I can reload. So if you are a person that really likes warfare, militaristic battle kind of stuff, this honestly, it doesn't matter if you're a fantasy fan or not. This is a show for you. Like, they do a really good job dissecting the philosophy of war, the grotesqueness of war, and the glory of war. Everyone here has a different perspective on battle and conflict, and it's a very fascinating concept. So at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do. What would you say is your rating for this show, for Drifters?
88.
Wow. I was going to give it like an 83.
Here's why.
Okay.
I think, obviously gorgeous, fun.
Right.
Stimulating like your brain.
Yeah.
Funny ass characters.
They're pretty
cool
funny.
characters.
Yeah.
Like, had everything you wanted. Like I said, the only things I can really ding it on is like the magical aspect. I think, bringing real war history people and making them, magicians and shit like that.
Yeah, right.
Like legitimately manifesting the powers they were accused of having is really annoying.
I think that aspect in isolation is not annoying to me, but the reason why I got an 83 is because how they handled it. Like we said earlier in the episode, if you're going to do that, go full hog. Everyone gets powers. Put everyone on the same playing field. It's, again, generals fighting each other with equal equipment is what makes militaristic style shows interesting, because the war strats are what carries the show. But if you have others with vastly different weaponry, that could make for interesting situations, but that's not what you're here to see, right? You're here to see generals do battle in traditional warfare, not some guy use a flaming sword against a guy who, just knows how to lead a good army. Like, it just doesn't feel equivalent, is all.
Yeah, and it's just like,
do one or the other. All I'm saying, don't half-ass it both ways. Just full ass one way.
It's the like underdog hater in me.
Oh yeah.
Like, they should not win a single battle against magician.
They shouldn't.
These people they can shoot flames out of their effing hands.
Joan of Arc should have smoked everybody.
Yes.
Like, honestly. Like, and you saw him. He isn't just a meager fire user. He literally swiped his sword and an entire city block was just, boom, gone.
Right. So it's like, I don't like when shows, have, for instance, you've got someone like a Deku who beats, basically what you would consider like an S-class, like top 10 bad guy.
Right.
With muscular.
Yeah, for sure.
That didn't make any sense to me.
It didn't. And it was kind of an ass pull from
right.
one
And
for
it
all.
just, it feels cheap unless there's massive like issues or, big problems from it.
Sure.
I think, I'm interested to see in a different show right now, Black Clover.
Mm-hmm.
Asta just had to get rid of one of his arms essentially and give it over to a demon.
Again,
what's going to happen?
Risk and reward. Like, that is what makes for compelling power systems.
But if they don't make that an issue and it's just like, oh, now your arm's strong forever now, it just looks like you're a demon.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's not going to be a good. They didn't do a good job then if that occurs, right?
What's the guy's Fumelion or the head
Fugulion?
Yeah, the fact he lost his arm, but with spiritual magic he has
just
a
fucking manifest a flame arm.
That again, that is the vibe I want
Yeah.
from the Asta shit. Like, literally, if he's not battling or constantly using magic, he doesn't have an arm. But when he is battling or using magic, he does have an arm and better than the one he had before. So hopefully that's the same thing with Asta. A little bit of a tangent, but.
Well, because I think it would have been cool, right?
Yeah.
Say he loses his freaking arm in the battle, like after everyone gets taken, whatever.
Right.
His arm just goes away, and then his teammates are like, "Holy shit!
What happened here? I had to give this to the devil. I still can get an arm, but I have to awaken that power again." That shit's rad to me. I like.
It's cool.
The risk and reward. This show for the antagonists, for the powers they have, there's no risk. They just get to burn city blocks. They get to burn entire villages.
It's just bad, I think.
Yeah, but here's the hoping that maybe there's a season 2. I mean, it's been 5 years. I don't know. Devil was a part-timer's getting a season 2, so who fucking knows? Like, it could very well get one.
Yeah, I mean, that was 2014 or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so fingers crossed. I mean, here's the hoping maybe.
Which, by the way, I don't recall really anything from that show. I watched it so long ago. I loved it.
I love Devil's Part-Timer. It's so funny.
It's a great
so
show,
yeah,
so
right.
I can't wait. But,
right.
If that gives you hope for other shows like this one.
Exactly. Everyone in the corner is crying about No Game, No Life, but we'll leave that one alone because I don't want to. We triggered people the other episode. We don't got to do it this time. We got to do it.
I think, in the meantime, though, it'd be cool to do like diagnostics of the different characters that they pull in and like compare what their real world history was with kind of what you see in the show.
Ooh. Maybe we can revisit this one and give it like a mythology or a history of.
Well, I was thinking that's like a YouTube videos all day long. You just pick,
right.
What did he say? What did he really do?
We're going to become a Drifters channel now? Is that what we're going to do?
Well, I'm going to do it with hardcore leveling warriors. So
that is true.
May as well just add a whole nother section.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that honestly would be real. There's so much to unpack there from a historical standpoint. But,
right.
But honestly, great fucking show. Go watch it. I will say it's a little hard to find. You may have to go non-animate this shit. A little bit.
Yeah, I go-goed.
Yeah, a little go-go. This is not found on most, if any, legitimate streaming sites.
Isn't it a Funimation show?
It is, but I have Funimation and a premium account for it because I had to watch some other fucking Balance Unlimited or some shit. And it's not on there.
I also go-goed that as well.
I probably should have done that too. But I looked on there. It's not there. It's not there. It's a Funimation show, but it's not there. So
that is weird.
Yeah. So you may have to really hunt this one down. But I can affirm and confirm that this is worth it. I think you would have a good time with this show.
10-4.
10-4, baby. But thank you so much for coming to class. If you want to watch with your eyes and your ears the full sensory experience, come on over to YouTube. Hello, YouTube gang. I'm back on that video grind now, so I actually I'm going to do it this week. But if you want to listen with just your earballs and not your eyeballs, go to anywhere you get your podcast fix, from Apple to Spotify and everything in between. Leave us a 5-star review and written one. While you're there, you're already given a 5-star. Might as well just leave a little bit of sentence.
Yeah, just say, wow, these guys are two cool dudes.
Two cool dudes. It's kind of two rude dudes in the nude being crude. All that, just, write that.
Maybe don't write that.
Not the nude part, but the crude part's accurate. It's fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's whatever. But yeah, go leave us a 5-star on Apple, or like, comment, and subscribe and everything on YouTube. What else we got? Shit, I rarely derail this. I had a perfect
Twitter
game.
at weebologyp, Instagram weebology.podcast.
Oh my God, is he gonna rip this one off? Yeah,
I can.
Oh no, I'll finish it up from here. But if you want to give us some old school love, say hi. Give us an anime to watch. This was a viewer suggestion. Shout out to Saint. Thank you so much for suggesting it. Hit us up on our email, weebologypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to give us some monetary love, only if you can, coming over to patreon.com/weebology. $1 and up gets you into our Discord with all the other Patreon folk and our past guests. So if you saw a guest that you really wanted to talk to, they're in our Discord. You can come over and say hi. $3 and up gets you the syllabus sidebar, the lo-fi, high vibe, sometimes anime, sometimes not, podcast we got going on for the paying students over there. Last time we talked about shit internet moving and I don't know, something else, like the loss of the headphone jack and phones.
Yeah,
that's
we
part
lamented that for a long time.
Hey, but I edited that one. You did not even notice that there's bad internet in that one.
Yeah, so I'm
gonna figure that
peek
one
behind the curtains.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure that
we
one out.
literally had to pause like 25 times during that.
It was pretty bad, but we edited. We're editing pros, and you wouldn't even notice it, except the fact that we addressed it a couple times in that one. But to listen to all that and see how it sounds,
not bad.
Not bad at all. Come on over to our Patreon.
Yeah, check it out.
But I think that's honestly it. I need to go home and watch the anime seasonals because I haven't been doing any of that.
No.
Yeah. But until I'm caught up on those seasonal good shows, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology.
Deuces.